I'm not, I'm scared.
It doesn't matter what time of day or night it is.
I know.
The famous.
The atmosphere changes straight away as soon as you walk through. No, I've got WD-40 over my hands.
Up on fucking Facebook and YouTube.
PIH exclusive.
This will ruffle a few feathers.
So basically, yeah, it was the world's first concentration camp. 1,200 of the Covenanters were brought here. It was the only place in Edinburgh big enough. It's the South Yard. It was going to be used as a burial, but good timing on their part. So yeah, the men were loaded up in here, and they were just left, basically, unless they repented. Wooden structures over the other side of the wall with the guards would watch. They would take pot shots at them with the rifles and basically just abuse them.
So how many actually repented? Is there a figure for how
not
many?
I mean, religion obviously was a huge thing back then, so you know, not many. You know, that's all they had was the religion. You know, that's what the whole thing was. That's what they were fighting for. You know, to be basically left alone with their own religion. So not many did. Even, you know, it wasn't a case of right, we'll just lie. We'll just say, right, yeah, we're repent. We'll take the new prayer book on board and we'll get on with it. No, it had gone way past that. So, you know, a lot of them died on site because well, obviously malnutrition, starvation, the cold weather. They had no shelter whatsoever.
Because the weather in Scotland's no fantastic.
275 survived out of the 1,200 that were brought here. They were loaded onto ships in Leith to be taken to the New World. You know, Charles had come in about and he needed a bit more public backing, so he said, right, I'm not going to execute the Covenanters that are left. We're going to send them off to the Americas, basically. They can live out their lives there. Unfortunately, just off the coast of Orkney, the ships sunk, and all 275 lives were lost. I don't know why they were up at Orkney, because that's the wrong direction. They said there was a storm and it pushed them on the rocks and the ships, but I believe in recent years diving, there's evidence of cannon fire on the ships. Now these ships weren't armed. The escort ships were armed, so we think the order's been given and they've just turned in and they've just shot them.
So basically just a setup, just you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's sink it.
But the only people who are buried in here are obviously the tombs now that are now built into here. I have heard in the past a lot of tour guides come up to the gates because obviously they don't have access. They come up to the gates looking down and say you can see the cells, and that's totally false. They're not cells, they're tombs and mausoleums.
I think that's probably just for effect, is it? Probably just...
Yeah. Down here we've got mort safes to the grand scale. Mort safes were great, they were well used. Most of them were reused. If you had the money, and the family had the money, and you had a bigger plot, what you would get is an enclosure. So you would get an enclosure which would be your tomb, basically your mausoleum, and you would have your iron grates at the front. You'd also have your iron grills at the top to stop people getting in at the top either. So you would be safe in the knowledge that your family members were indeed left in the ground.
They were left in peace.
Yep, it was a big business. We've still got the surviving one here at the top. We've still got the iron, because a lot of the iron and a lot of the steel and everything were taken down during the war. A lot of the old railings and stuff, obviously they were melted down for ammunition. And unfortunately fences and things like that in graveyards, you know, boundary fences and that, a lot of them were taken off and melted down and recast.
So obviously back then, the more money you had, the safer you were in death, basically. And it gave families peace of mind that their mother, father, whoever was going to be, you know, stay where they'd been laid.
That's not ghost banging, that's working.
That's Balfour Beatty banging. This looks quite, there's quite a few in here.
Yeah, this is one of the huge families. It's Moncrief, the Moncrief family. There's a lot buried in here. Most of the family are in here. I think they have 15 plots in here. You've got Mary Erskine's, the school founder, her herb gardens in there. It's looked after by the Mary Erskine School.
Right.
That's her memorial part down here. We've also got James Hutton, the father of modern geology. His memorial stone's in here as well, although he's not buried in here.
There's memorials here.
Yeah, the geology department of Edinburgh Uni paid for it to be put up. Because we know he's in here, in the graveyard, in the main graveyard down there, beside John Knox and everybody else. We just don't know where.
There is a kind of different atmosphere in here.
It doesn't, yeah. I mean, when the original attacks or the original interactions were happening on people before the council locked the gates, I mean, you're talking the middle of the afternoon. There was 11 ambulances called over the space of 8 months for people, and it was all in the afternoon. It was all 3, 4 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. People were just collapsing in this area around the Black Mausoleum. So, you know, it's not just, you know, it doesn't just come out at night. if the Mackenzie poltergeist doesn't like you, it doesn't matter what time of day or night it is.
It doesn't matter if it's lunchtime or midnight. Oh, yeah.
One thing we've learned over the 21 years we've been doing tours in here is, yeah, I mean, we know it better than anybody else. We know the signs, we know the change in the atmosphere, we know when it's going to kick off. Sometimes. That's James Hutton's memorial there. Considering who he was, you know, the father of modern geology, it's quite a plain, I've always thought it's a very, very plain granite stone, you know, considering the minerals and stone and rock that he, you know, could have been a little bit more exciting.
Grander.
So, the whole reason this place was locked in 1999 by the council
was that infamous?
Is this place. It was round about this area and outside at that time that people were, they were coming away with the scratches, well, the knockouts, you know, not fainting, getting knocked out. Coming away with strange marks on them, the burn marks, they felt like they were being pushed, shoved, kicked, punched, thrown against walls, tripped up, pushed, you know, with force. A couple of the police reports were seen, somebody was attacked, well, they weren't attacked, they were pushed and their head banged off one of the things, so there was quite a lot of stigma about it. So there was obviously injuries. But the police report has got an unseen assailant, is what the official report says, because they couldn't describe anybody because they didn't see anybody. There was nobody to see. So I think it was just after that, that's when the council went, right, enough's enough, before it was a media storm. And, you know, councils are not insured for graveyards, they don't need to be. People are dead when they get here. You know, if you're climbing up a gravestone, it's your own fault. You shouldn't be climbing on a gravestone and fall off and injure yourself. You know, due diligence is a lot to play in it. So the council just took it and then just padlocked it. Said, right, we're just going to stop people going in that area, because that's it. And it's all focused around this one.
I'm not brave enough to take pictures in there.
Like I said, there is no evidence we have got in the 21 years we've been documenting this. There is no evidence whatsoever that this has got anything to do with George Mackenzie. You know, Jan called it the Mackenzie poltergeist in his book because this is what his research was doing. It was all for his book, The Ghost That Haunted Itself, because he wanted to document it, so he had to call it something. Likewise, he had to call this place something, where all the things were happening, to try and, you know, explain the location. Unfortunately, that has now led to a lot of confusion.
Because obviously that's, you know, the Black Mausoleum.
Even so much as online, some people argue with me by saying that Mackenzie's mausoleum in the main graveyard is the Black Mausoleum where the attacks happen. No, it's not. This is the Black Mausoleum where the attacks happen. They always happen here, in the prison. Go on, Garen. I'm not going.
You not coming, huh?
Right, come.
There you go, locked inside the infamous Black Mausoleum by Jamie Costorphine. It's certainly chilly in here, it's certainly cold in here. I believe it's the Dundas family is buried in here. See, Sarah's in the safe side, she's outside. And I've been locked inside. Well, there's been many attacks in here reported over the years, scratches, people getting pushed, feeling faint, numerous happenings in all centres, as you just heard Jamie saying, all centres in here, not the Mackenzie Mausoleum, which is in the main kirkyard, but this is a place where it all kind of happens.
No connection to the Mackenzie Corner. Over 3,000 eyewitness accounts since 1999. What's the best way to get, documentation and to record things than to have a wide range of people from all over the world to come in voluntary and basically see what happens. And that's how City of the Dead, was founded, to do that. And not only do they volunteer, they pay us to bring them in here to hopefully be attacked by a poltergeist. But of course, it's not a performing monkey. We'd love to be able to switch it on and switch it off, but we can't.
There's no guarantees.
Yeah, we can go months without anything happening, and nothing, and then we think, well, maybe that's it. That's it over. But as long as it keeps interacting with people, then we'll keep doing it, and we'll keep documenting it. It is the most documented paranormal case in the world today. And yeah, it's still going.
No, I'm inside it. Look, I'm noticing these look like about sound fireplaces.
Yeah, no, it's the support for the mausoleum. It's like an archway for the support for the bricks.
Right.
It's purely design. You sometimes, obviously, if they're deeper, you would have the burial chambers. If it was wider, you'd have the four basically square boxes that you put the coffins in. If it was but this in this one, they're under here. But this has got no connection to George Mackenzie whatsoever. This mausoleum, it's the Dundas family. Not Henry Dundas, it's Henry Dundas's cousins in that side of the family. That's who's buried in here. So there's no connection to George Mackenzie with this tomb whatsoever. The only evidence we have to why it was called the Mackenzie poltergeist is because both times George Mackenzie's mausoleum in the graveyard was desecrated, the homeless guy in 1999 falling through the floor and pulling his coffin with him. That's when things, literally the week after, that's when things started happening in the prison. And then the second time in 2003, when Mackenzie's head was removed and kicked about the graveyard by the 15-year-old, that's when things really started heating up in here. A huge spate after that. It was literally night after night after night after night after
Something
night.
was happening.
Yeah, so that's the only two instances, but both times something's happened to Mackenzie's mausoleum, it's really heated up in this mausoleum. So it could be purely coincident. It might have nothing to do with George Mackenzie whatsoever. However, there is the curse that said, because of the atrocities that he had on the Covenanters and the ones he kept here under his orders, there was a curse put on him that said his soul would never rest as long as it was in Greyfriars. So maybe this is what it is now.
Could possibly, we don't
I
know
don't
how you're going to get
too
the
much
people.
in here because I know what goes on in here.
There you go, folks. You heard it about Jamie Costorphine himself about the Black Mausoleum and the Mackenzie tomb. They are two separate places, although many people claim that it's the same, they're one and the same. They're not. And there's your famous skull and crossbones.
There's pirates all over the place in here, eh?